Hi, so I decided to do a ranking of all of the enchantments in Magic the Gathering Shandalar, and I'm going to just whiz through it completely unscripted and completely unprepared and just see how I would rate all of the cards that are enchantments in this game. So, going through entirely in alphabetical order, we're going to start with Angelic Voices. Let me remind myself what it does. Creatures to control get 1/1 as long as you have no non-artifact, non-white creatures. It's not great. There are better kind of like boosters for all of your creatures that don't have such a strict condition. If you're running an all white deck, you would just use Crusade. So I'm going to put Angelic Voices in probably B. So yeah. Next, animate artifact. As long as enchanted artifact isn't a creature, is an artifact creature with power and toughness. There's a creature card which I can't remember the name of. Something poltergeist, Zenic Poltergeist, which does this for free. And then there's Titania's Song, which does that to everything. It's reasonable. I mean, there are some expensive artifacts like Aladdin's Ring you could use this on for, no, not even then. I think it goes into C. It's okay. It's not really giving. Animate Dead is essential. I don't know whether that's A or S, but it's a really useful card because you can have things like cycling your own cards into the graveyard and then bringing it back, and the -1/0 is kind of pithy, especially if you're bringing back a creature that has a kind of like, for example, a paid effect or a tap effect. Am I going to put this in S or I'm going to put it in A? I don't know, because S tier's got to be, the absolute best enchantments. Is it one of the best black enchantments? Yeah, let's just put it in S. Why not? There we go. I would put Animate Wall as either A or S as well. It's really good. Enchanted Wall can attack as though it didn't have Defender. You can turn a Wall of Swords into a flying 3/5. I think it's 3/5. So it's pretty good. Maybe it will come under A, just because otherwise I think I'm going to too easily fill this with S tier cards. But yeah, love Animate Wall. Really useful. So I put it in A. Artifact Possession. I don't remember what this one does. Whenever enchanted artifact becomes tapped or a player activates an ability of an enchanted artifact without tap in its activation cost, it deals 2 damage to that artifact's controller. It's okay. I mean, there's Warp Artifact is probably just better all round. I guess it's okay for trying to kind of dissuade the use of an artifact, but realistically you would just create another, or you just summon another artifact. So I'm going to put this in C. I don't think it's not really a card I've used. I'm trying to click and drag the wrong one. Yeah, this is all right, not great. Okay, I need to hurry up because there's 114 of these and I've only done 5, so I'm just going to whiz through them. Artifact Ward is pretty good, but then again, in Shandalar there aren't like a lot of really heavy hitting there's a lot of artifact creatures, but not many that are maybe would justify this card being essential in a white deck. Enchanted creature can't be blocked by artifact creatures. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to enchanted creature by artifact sources. Yeah, it's basically circular protection artifacts, but just for the enchanted creature. I'm going to put that in B because I think it's reasonable. It's not bad, but Aspect of Wolf is got to be an S without a doubt for green decks. If you have a mono green deck, just having a lot of forests really makes this slay. You can turn anything into a really high power toughness creature. Yeah, that's S without a doubt. Love that one. Backfire is interesting as a shutdown, but I think for the fact it costs 1 blue, I think that does make it good. But would I say A or B? I don't know. I would say there are better mono shutdown enchantments or like kind of creature control enchantments I think it can't go higher than, I think I'd say B. I'd say B, if not C. So we'll see. Bad Moon, A or S for sure. It's just really affordable, and a lot of opponents in Shandalar that use black mono decks will have this, and normally will surprise you with lots of 1/1s that they just buff up with multiple Bad Moons. That's definitely made me kind of like lose a lot of matches against them. So I'm tempted to put it in S. I think these cheap buff everything unconditionally cards are going to be S for sure. Black Ward, I guess this comes under all the wards that are specifically for a certain color that you place on a creature, are useful. Of course, any card which depends on a certain color is going to be hampered by, does your opponent actually have that color? So I'm going to put this in B. It's good. I think Blessing is one of the highest rated cards, because it's a paid kind of like unlimited pumping of a creature. I think it's all right. It's not one of my personal favorites because I think for me one of the points of enchantments is to be able to create a creature which is stronger and keep it alive for longer, make it more useful. And Blessing, obviously, because it's until end of turn, there's nothing to stop your opponent from just taking it out when it's not your turn. So it becomes a bit more conditional, and I don't think white decks normally do a lot of like, because pumping creatures is normally like a red or blue, not red or blue, sorry, red or green. I'll put it in, is it controversial if it goes into B? I'm going to put it in B, I don't care. I'm putting it as B. Blight is definitely A or S. Blight is really useful. Multiple copies of this. I think land denial in Shandalar is really strong because there are very few kind of multicolored lands, but there are lots of multicolored opponents. So when they don't, like if you have certain opponents, especially some of the dragon ones, when you deny them land, their decks brick really fast. I'm going to have an S list that's too big. I'm going to have to put this in A, even though I think it probably deserves higher. Blood Moon, non-basic lands and mountains is good. I would say in Shandalar it's not amazing because not a lot of decks depend on multicolored lands because they just have huge amounts of all the typical lands. So I'm going to put this in B. Blue Ward, all the other wards we're going to go into, I said C. Useful, but just specific to the enemy's deck. Brainwash is one I don't remember very well. Enchanted creature can't attack unless its controller pays 3. In terms of white enchantments that control creatures, there are better ones. But it's fine for like the early, but there's better, so B. Burrowing, I don't think Mountain Walk is super useful in Shandalar, really. Especially because it's red, and there's this kind of weird... I mean, I'll have to make another video about why red is the worst colour, the most disadvantaged colour in Shandalar, but if you are fighting a red deck with a red deck, you're kind of already fighting enemies that have Mountain Walk, so giving yourself Mountain Walk is not necessarily going to be... I don't know, I don't think I would justify using Burrowing. Maybe it's just not my playstyle. But I would put this in C. It's not great. Castle is, I would say it's B, really strong B, if not A, really useful, especially when you have creatures with vigilance. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if the keyword vigilance was in Magic at the time this game came out. I'm not sure. I think it's just attacking does not cause us to untap. I'll put it in B. B. And I am going to check quickly to make sure that my recording... Yeah, cool. Because I'm worried that it's going to fall off the screen, but never mind. All the circular protections are all A. They're really useful, probably more useful than the wards, because you can just allow anything to hit you, negate it to 0. This has saved me so many times. So you just have to be prepared for whichever deck you're facing. But there have been times when you can spend like 5 or 10 turns just being hit by 5 or 6 creatures, which would, deal clearly far more than 20 life points of damage at once, but you can just prevent all of it really easily. And especially with the AI in Shandalar, they use circular protection quite adeptly. I think the summoner, or the green creature that kind of follows you, the green opponent that follows you around and challenges you, they use circular protection green on themselves so they don't take damage from force of nature. So the AI uses it well, but the AI is not very good at dealing with an opponent that has it, so they'll keep on attacking over and over and over again, tapping all of their creatures in the process while you take no damage. So all of the circular protections, including artifacts, I guess. I think even though artifacts costs 2, maybe artifacts goes into A and then the rest in S. Yeah, that sounds fair to me. But yeah, good cards. Again, this will probably be another video, but I really strongly favour white magic. It's just got loads of good stuff about it. Consecrate land. Yeah, it's okay. I don't think I've ever ran it in a deck on a run. All of my runs are wizard mode, so like the hardest difficulty. Yeah, you do get I can't remember what it's called, a Seng beast or a something beast that runs like blight, strip mine, stone rain, all of those land destruction ones. I feel like this would be useful to have in that situation, but it's a little bit niche maybe, depending on the kind of deck you run. I think there are better enchantments for either getting mana or, you'd probably just use something like Worldly Tutor if that's in Shandalar, which I can't remember. But yeah, so I'm going to put it as a B. Control magic could be an S. It's a little bit expensive, so maybe I'll put it in A instead. But this is amazing. Your opponent spends loads of time and effort summoning something really strong, and you just take it for yourself. And if your opponent is something like red, then they're normally fucked because they can't take it back, or they can't destroy control magic, so they have to destroy the whole creature. So yes, A. Only because the only reason why it's not S is because of the cost is a little bit much, so you could potentially lose before you have a chance to use it. But yeah, conversion is really good. It's a bit niche, but it's hilarious. It's probably the best way to fight most of the red opponents in Shandalar. Just ruins them completely. I love it. So A, but it is a bit niche. I guess I haven't really decided with this tier list. There could be some enchantments that are amazing, but they are so niche that they're not necessarily always useful. But I think it deserves an A just because of the fact it's really fun and really good. And I like these kind of expensive upkeep enchantments. It really brings a sense of like investment in you kind of having a strategy to win, and you're paying to keep it going, and you have to really manage your own kind of resources and achieving it, and it's just so devastating in the right hands. So yeah, that's good. Copy artifact. This is good. A little bit niche again. I've used this in conjunction with, I think it's called Bronze Tablet, but this is a like super specific Shandalar situation where you have to essentially steal cards from your opponents, and so this is just an example of making that easier. You could use it to copy anything. You could even use it to copy your opponent's artifacts. So I think this would be, I think I'd put it in A. I think it's, 2 converted cost of 2 is really good. Let's put that in A. Creature Bond. When enchanted creature dies, Creature Bond deals damage equal to that creature's toughness to the creature's controller. I don't think I've ever had a problem with this card. Because when one of my creatures just gets enchanted with Creature Bond, I just don't throw it into battle. I just let it stay to one side. Yeah, it's not very useful really, because if your opponent is able to destroy your creatures, they would just do that and then move on and attack you. Yeah, I think this is at C. I wonder if anything will go into F. F is supposed to be like, this is useless. Maybe Creature Bond could be an F. I'll see. Crusaders up there with Blood Moon as S. I don't care if it's 2 white instead of 1 white and 1 colourless. We're not going to talk about the controversy about the card because I don't care. It's a great piece of artwork. Unfortunately, this doesn't show me who the artist was, but Pool is written on there, so I'm assuming it's them. Yeah, I love this card. And it has a cute dragon on it, so it has to have an S. Those are the rules. Curse Land. Ooh, where's my book? So Curse Land apparently came free with copies of this book, or free, or you could send for it in the mail or something. Just going to check and see if this is currently on screen. This is an amazing book, absolutely lovely. Terry McLaurin. So this is one of the kind of like magical world books, and I loved it. And I'm going to put that back. Okay. Next, where was I? Yeah, so Curse Land. Really cool. Used by the Centaur Shaman, I believe, as part of they have a series of cards that tick down 1 life point of damage. It's a bit expensive, so it probably goes down to a B, but it is a good, I think it's a fundamentally good card, and it's a really nice addition to any black deck, because it allows you to kind of, eventually you will win if your opponent can't remove it or attack you. So a lot of Shandalar matches turn into this long stalematey situation, so having something like Curse Land is very useful. Did I say A or B? I'm going to put it in B because it's 4. Cost of 4, so it's a bit much. Cyclone, love Cyclone, really fun. You can make really good Cyclone decks where you combine Cyclone with Circular Protection Green, and then you can combine it with, this is a build I ran a long time ago, and then have creatures that are immune to, or have protection against green. So it's fun. It's a bit slow to set up, and your deck has to be quite specific, but once you have enough mana and you can just keep running Cyclone, it's incremental. So you eventually get to the point where you're dealing 5, 6, 7 points of damage to everything that your opponent controls. I would put it in B only. Oh, B or A. I do like it. It's definitely one of my favourite green enchantments. I'm going to put it in A because I think it can be a really powerful enchantment in the right deck. Because you just, every turn you're just dealing very reliable damage. This is probably showing my bias. It probably doesn't deserve to be an A, but I don't care. Damping Field. I don't remember this one. Players can't untap more than 1 artifact during their untap steps. Oh, this is an F. Like, who cares? This is really, like, is it Yotei or Yotai Warrior as an artifact with Vigilance? I'm probably remembering this wrong. You've got Brass Man that you can tap to untap. I mean, you can pay to untap. Yeah, I mean, if you're fighting somebody with, like, a lot of Mox artifacts, yeah, that might be a bit annoying to have to tap to untap them, and you basically lose a turn of their mana. But no, it's not useful really. There are better ways to deal with enchantments, especially for the cost of 3. No, I think that's our first F. I've never used it. I don't even remember if any enemy decks have it in particular. Death Grip is good. Counter target green spell. It's very nice to have that just sitting around. It's a bit situational because it's only useful against green, but I would definitely put it as a strong B. I do like it. I guess the only challenge is you have to play it in a bit like Life Force, which is the green version. you have to kind of play your hand really defensively and always keep a certain amount of mana free, so that when they cast a spell, you have the mana to then counter it. But yeah, I do like it. Strong B. Or A. It's tough. I think I'm going to put it in A, I think, because I really do like it, and it's I think spell counter is not common in black, especially in Shandalar, so yeah, it's good. Divine Transformation is good, but it's expensive, especially when you consider Holy Strength and Unholy Strength are a lot cheaper, and you're really getting just a small extra difference. I mean, you're getting 2 points of difference. 3 points of difference, because it's +1, +2 versus +3, +3. But it is expensive. I mean, white is slow and expensive normally anyway. I don't think in Shandalar, because Shandalar has a lot of kind of like surprise creature destruction. So I don't know whether the heavy investment in a +3/+3 for converted cost of 4, I don't know if it's super justifiable. I'm going to put it in B though, because I do like it and I like the card art. I should really have looked up who the artist was. B. Drop of Honey I've never used, so I'm going to have to remind myself how it works. At the beginning of your upkeep, destroy the creature with the least power. It can't be regenerated. If 2 or more creatures are tied for least power, you choose one of them. When there are no creatures on the battlefield to sacrifice Drop of Honey. I don't know on what planet anyone running a green deck would want something where they lose control of how to destroy creatures, and then I guess it could be, I mean, it could potentially be useful, but if you have the creature with the highest power, you would just attack and destroy their creatures, realistically, especially in a Shandalar game where every match in the first, well, I'd say most of the run is a desperate panic to try and win quickly before you run out of your minuscule life points. I'd put it as an F, but I'm very happy to hear reasons why I'm wrong. I'm sure it's good for some people, but I would say Earthbind is also F, because it's so, like, for 1 mana you would just use Lightning Bolt to destroy a creature. I just think, like, dealing 2 damage and removing flying from one creature. I mean, when most of the decks that have flyers, either the creature is strong enough, like a white deck, where it's, losing flying is not going to be devastating for that deck, or it's a deck which has loads of weak flyers, in which case you're using a whole card to just get rid of, for example, 1 vampire bat or something. So I would put this an F. I think it's not very good. Energy Flux, I think, deserves A or S. I probably will end up putting it in S. It's just such a good card in Shandalar. The AI just cannot cope with this card. It just they essentially, if they have more than 2 artifacts, which basically all enemies do, it just paralyzes them, because they try and pay for artifacts that make no sense. For example, they will try and pay to keep a Mox artifact, which is like paying 2 mana to make 1 mana. It just doesn't work. Yeah, it's just one of my favorite enchantments for blue. Definitely S. Super useful, particularly against like the Mana Lords and Arzakon as well. Just ruins them completely, so I love it. I think Erosion is actually quite good. I know it's 3 blue, which makes it quite expensive, and I know that there are other land enchantments which might be stronger than Erosion, but I do like it because it's a fun mechanic of putting pressure on your opponent and giving them a choice of, like, I can hold on to this land desperately but at a cost to my own life points. I do like it. And off the top of my head, I can't remember if blue has a lot of land denial in Shandalar. I think Boiling Seas is not in Shandalar. Yeah, I'm going to put it as A or B. I would say A. Maybe I will regret that decision, but we'll see. Eternal Warrior. Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to put it in C because you would just have creatures that have vigilance instead. There is a really good enchantment that's white that I don't think is in Shandalar, and I think it's called... Oh, I can't remember. Something like Sarah's Vigilance, but it gives all your creatures vigilance. Yeah, so not super stoked about Eternal Warrior, really. Especially because you would just run a red-white deck with creatures that have vigilance, but happy to be proved wrong. Evil Presence is really good. Lots of enemies in Shandalar have Swamp Walk based decks, and this is what they use to kind of have a foot in the door. I would put this as an A for those decks. Yeah, because essentially either you're fighting somebody with a swamp, in which case you don't need it, or every single other type of colour you can turn it into a swamp. It's also good for mana denial if you're... Yeah, actually no, it's definitely A, if not S. Because you can have, if you have a few of these in your deck, you can throw them out right at the start, and turn, islands into swamps, and then they can't cast blue spells. It can be really useful for choking them out, or also for turning any kind of... I don't remember off the top of my head. I think desert, city or brass, something bizarre. Yeah, I'm going to put this in S, actually. I think Evil Presence is really good for all kinds of black decks. Farmstead. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2 white. If you do, you gain 1 life. This is kind of rubbish. There are much better ways of gaining life. Spiritual Sanctuary gives you life for free every turn, as long as you have a plains, which you guaranteed to have. Basically, so I would put Farmstead as C or F. I think Poole is the artist again. The artwork is cute, which is making me think C instead of F. I'm very biased. I'm going to put it in C. Yeah, C. Fast Bond is really, really powerful. I don't really use it very much, but it's potentially really devastating in Shandalar if you can just suddenly have 3 or 4 lands offset by... Yeah, I think you'd have to use it in combination with other things, like cycling cards as quickly as possible. But it is really useful. That's another Pool card. Cool. I'm going to put it in A, I think, just because I feel like it. No, thank you. Fear. Enchanted creature has fear. Can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and/or black creatures. Bit situational. I feel like a lot of early Shandalar... In fact, to be honest, depending on the deck, you probably would keep using it, but... I've completely forgotten what it's called. Floating Scimitar is a 1/5 with flying, which is like the poor man's Wall of Swords for every situation. I don't know if Fear is super useful, because, again, if you have a creature with more power, you would just attack and destroy their creatures and keep going. So I'm going to put Fear as a C. It's not useless, for sure, but it's not one of my faves. Feedback. At the beginning of the upkeep of Enchantment's controller, feedback deals 1 damage to that player. I don't know if anyone else ever had this experience, but I believe, for me at least, in my version of Shandalar, this card was bugged, and I don't think it actually did anything. But I could be wrong, but I just have memories of enemies casting feedback on one of my enchantments and nothing happened. So I'm going to put that to one side and assume the card actually works as it should. Yeah, it's like Curse Land, but worse and more expensive. And not every deck is guaranteed to have enchantments, unlike lands. Cost converted, cost of 3. I'm going to put it in C. So not a fave. Fire Breathing is Blessing, but cheaper, maybe a little bit worse. I actually do think this is it's a bit controversial, but I do think it's better than Blessing because it's cheaper, and pumping creatures in red is pretty standard. Maybe it's not fair to rank it higher than Blessing, though. I guess Fire Breathing is good for certain situations, but then I'm thinking you've got Shivan Dragon and Dragon Whelp, which are both pumpable. And there's never any reason to have more than one source of pumping on a creature I can think of. I'll put it in B. so it can be with Blessing. Fish Liver Oil, enchanted creature has Island Walk. I've never used this card. I don't think it's useful, really. I don't, because there is a card which, I've forgotten what it's called, but there's an enchantment which turns a land into an island. So in conjunction with that, it could be on par with Evil Presence in the sense of turning something into a certain type and then having Island Walk. I don't know. I feel like blue is kind of weird because it has a lot of Island Walk creatures, but then it can't attack unless the opposing opponent controls an island, or I can't remember what it's called. There's one with a big fish on it. I'm going to put this in C. I just don't think it's inherently great. I think blue would just do different things. Enchanted creature has flying. It's useful, but I feel like you would just have a creature that has flying. And then jump is better because jump is a surprise that they can't see coming. I don't know. I guess I would put flight in B. I don't think I've really run it. I tend to run decks that just have flyers. Flood, tap target creature without flying. Flood is good. Flood is really useful. It's useful because it's cheap, and if you have a blue deck and you're kind of near the start or mid level of the game and you're struggling, Flood is really useful for kind of like repeatedly shutting down. Because basically the way it would work is at the start of your opponent's turn, you would just tap anything that would be attacking you. So yeah, I think that's a pretty useful one. I would put that in decent B or A. Would I put it? No, I wouldn't put it in A. I don't use it enough to put it in A. Fortified area. All creatures you control get +1/+0 and have banding. The AI deals with banding really well, and banding is useful, even if it's a bit hard to maybe understand sometimes why it exists. Don't think I've really used. I think there are better. Again, I think Crusade is just better. I can't think of why you would have a multicolored wall deck unless you had Animate Wall, but then that's why Animate Wall's an S. Oh, Animate Wall's not an S. Oh, maybe it's just a name. I might change my mind about that. Anyway, Fortified Area, let's put it as B. Gaseous Form. Prevent all combat damage that we dealt to and dealt by enchanted creature. This could be useful. But then I guess not. The only thing that comes to mind is something that deals poison counters, but then if it's not dealing combat damage, I think it doesn't apply the poison counter. I actually don't know if that's how it's implemented in Shandalar. I have a feeling that it can. I mean, I'll have to test that at some point, but I have a feeling that if you cast Gaseous Form on I can't remember what it's called, the Scorpion, Pit Scorpion, I don't know if this would stop it. So apart from that, it's like a much more useless version of warding. Again, with Hypnotic Scepter being another one that's a really strong creature card that causes your opponent to discard. I don't know if Gaseous Form would stop that from working. Never used it. I'm going to put it in B. C. I'm going to put it in C. Gate to Phyrexia. Sacrifice a creature, destroy target artifact, activate its ability only. No, it's not really worth it. I can't think of. Because you would basically have to have a creature generation deck. What's it called? There's a card called the Hive, which, Bitter Blossom's not in Shandalar. I'm going to put this in C. I feel like it could potentially be useful, but I just don't know about. I don't know if Shandalar has a reliable enough, cheap enough method of black creature generation. Off the top of my head, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm not remembering something. I feel like if you're going to run a black creature generation deck, you would. Well, maybe. I mean, Pitlord is like the classic black Shandalar deck that sacrifices or obliges you to sacrifice things. I can't really. Maybe it's a bit too specific. I don't know. Giant Strength. it's good. I mean, red, as I may have to do a video on separately, red has a hard time in Shandalar, so it needs all the help it can get. I think the brute is better than giant strength. I can't remember if it costs 2 or 3 red mana. It's all right though. Giant strength. It should be on the same level as holy and unholy strength. So I'd say put it in an A. Yeah, maybe. I think it's fine. Gloom is really good. Really big fan of Gloom. Normally because I'm the victim of Gloom in my playthroughs, not real life. I'd put that in A definitely. White spells cost 3 more to cast. Activated abilities of white enchantments cost 3 more to activate. This would be Gloom is basically what would shut me down if I'm doing like a normal run of the kind of deck I would normally make in Shandalar. This would slay me. And I believe there might be either a dungeon or it might be the black. No, it's not the Black Keep. There's definitely a dungeon where I think they all start with Gloom as a card. Possibly. I'm having memories of opponents that start with Gloom immediately. Did I say A or S? Is it worth S? I think if I've got all the circular protections in S, I think Gloom, again, it's really specific anti-white, but it is just so useful, and it's only converted cost to 3. A or S? What have I put? I would say it's on par with Conversion, because Conversion is specifically anti-red. Yes, put it in A. A. Greater Realm of Preservation. I don't think it's on par with the other circular protections because it just costs more to activate, and it's almost as niche as them anyway. So it kind of just strikes me as a worse version of those. So I'm going to put that down as B. A or B? B. I'm going to say B. I never really run it. B. Greed, page life, draw a card. This is quite a popular card amongst opponents in Shandalar. I think it's good. I don't personally run it. I think there are much better card drawing methods. I think Demonic Tutor is a way better way for black decks to fetch cards. So I'm going to put it in B because I think it can be useful. But yeah, I think there are better ways of doing the same thing that doesn't require such a heavy cost. Green Ward. This goes with all the other wards, which was... I actually can't remember. Where did I put wards? Was it A or B? B. I don't really use the ward spells very much. Haunting Wind. I like this one, even though it's not necessarily very good. Whenever an artifact becomes tapped, or player activates an artifact's ability without tapping its activation cost, Haunting Wind deals 1 damage to that artifact's controller. I do like it. I know it's not very good, so it's going to go into B or C, but it's just really fun. It's a nice way to shut down artifacts. Maybe I think it has to go into C because it just costs a bit too much. I mean, cost of 4, you would just destroy artifacts or take control of them or something. It's just a bit... Hidden Path. Green creatures have Forest Walk. Jesus Christ, that is expensive. I've never used this. Green creatures have Forest Walk anyway. I mean, there's Gaia something has Forest Walk and turns your opponent's creatures into forest. That is a ridiculous cost. That's a converted cost of 6. That's C or F. I might put it in F because that's so... The card art is beautiful, I will say that. But yeah, that's not a practical or useful card. I think you'd lose before you throw that out. And if you built some kind of deck that was anti-green, there's better ways of dealing with green. I think Acid Rain, for example. Holy Armor, a bit like Blessing, but defensive. Again, has the same weakness of pumping toughness. It's easy for your opponent to anticipate that and wait for you to have tapped lands and just destroy it. So I'm going to put that in B. Holy Strength and Unholy Strength, well, when we get to that, I mean, they're standard. They're just A, without doubt. Bordering on S just because they're so useful and important. Yeah, A, just because they're cheap and every white deck benefits from it, basically. Immolation's really good. I'm tempted to put it in S. It serves so many purposes. And again, red struggles in Magic, so this is a card that's really useful for red from the beginning. It's both able to kind of destroy enemy creatures, pump up your own, as long as you use it wisely, and it's really cheap. I think Immolation is definitely an S. It's one of my faves, and it's a really nice card art as well. Instill Energy is incredibly useful. Maybe tempted to put it in A or S. I've completely forgotten what it's called. Something Leviathan. There's a 10/10 blue creature which requires you to pay a huge cost by sacrificing 2 lands to untap it. This lets you untap it for free. For example, you can use this on a Bird of Paradise to just keep generating more and more mana. I'm tempted to put it in S. It's not naturally obvious why it's useful for more than just untapping an attacker, but it has loads of uses with loads of different kinds of creatures, so I think most green decks can benefit from it. I've never really used it for the hasteness of it. I forgot I actually did that. It's normally for untapping, so you can activate things twice in a row, for example. Yeah, S, I think that's a really, really useful card. Invisibility. Enchanted creature can't be blocked except by walls. I've never run it. I don't remember any opponents that run it. It looks useful. This would be how you would run a poison deck in Shandalar if you really wanted to. I do think that this would be B though, because I feel like your strategy would be completely null and void if your opponent had a wall suddenly. Yeah, so maybe B. Island Sanctuary is a pretty cool card. Not many things. I mean, well, there are things that have flying in Island Walk, obviously, but I think most creatures don't, so it does stop a lot of attacks. I have seen this used. I think Ivory Guardian or whatever the Pegasus opponent's called, they use it. I do like it. It's probably an A. Card art's really nice as well. But then I don't know. It's a tough one. I'm tempted to put it in B actually, just because it's. Well, I'm remembering when my opponents use it, it's kind of delaying the inevitable. It doesn't really turn around and fight a duel. I'm going to put it in B. It's a tough decision. Yeah, B. I think it's cheap. It's not bad. Jihad enters the battlefield. Choose a color and opponent. White creatures get 2/1 as long as the chosen player controls a non-token permanent of the chosen color. When the chosen player controls no non-token permanents of the chosen color, sacrifice Jihad. I think it's pretty good. It's not on the same level as Crusade, just because you have to go through all this. You have to jump through all these hoops. So I would put it at. The fact you get to choose the color is useful. And if your opponent has no permanence of that color, that implies their field is empty. So you'd probably be winning anyway. Cost of 3. It's not really a card I run that much. Maybe because it's a bit. I think Crusade just outclasses it so much. Just stack Crusades on top of Crusades for the same thing, but better and easier. I'm going to put it in. I'm going to put it in B just because I don't really use it. But it's good. It's a very strong B. Karma is really useful. Specifically, the decks I've run would combine Karma with Magical Hack, because you just change the word swamp to whatever land your opponent has and kill them. And it's like a lovely way of dealing like passive damage over time. Yeah, definitely would put Karma in A. Only reason why it's not S is because of the A the cost of 4 converted mana, and B, the fact you can damage yourself with it. And it's good. No, the damage is very high. If used in the right circumstances, you can be dealing like 7 or 8 damage every single turn. So yeah, very good. Kismet is a very strong card used in certain situations by certain decks. It's kind of like it's used in conjunction with Meekstone to, again, this is a card that I'm normally a victim to because I'm normally running like expensive white kind of like strong angel decks. So yeah, this is a really useful card with that. I'd say definitely goes into A. It's a bit situational. It requires building for this deck, but it's got a cute cat on it, so it's definitely highly ranked. And it's lovely card art, really lovely card. A little bit expensive, which is why it's not an S, but with the right deck, this can be a really useful way of just shutting down. Especially if you combine it with Royal Assassin, because it basically means you can destroy every single creature they bring in before it can do anything. It's just slightly out of S because it is a little bit expensive, but for what it does. But then again, I don't know, because isn't Meekstone 4 converted cost? And I think people would argue that Meekstone is an S rank artifact. Maybe Kismet deserves an S, even though I don't really use it. I think it is very good. Where did Kismet go? Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it does deserve an S. Kudzu, never used it. I don't know why you'd want to use it. It's just like, let's make everyone's life miserable. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think, even if you ran a deck with no land and had some kind of really weird, like, anti-land deck where you get all of your mana from creatures and other sources, you would just run, like, I forgot what it's called. Armageddon, or Acid Rain or something like that. It's just really, I would say this is rubbish and F, but all the F cards, everything I've classed as F, I am willing to listen to reason. Lance, enchanted creature, has first strike. Never used it. Looks really pretty. Is it useful? I'd say it's all right. Maybe B. I think it's not bad. I think there are. It's one of those, a bit like what's it called? The red one we looked at, which gave vigilance, Eternal Soldier or something. I think it's on par with that. I don't remember where I put that card. It's very hard for me to see because it's very small. Yeah, I literally can't see it. Lol. So I'm just going to put that in B because it's fine. But there are better 1 white enchantments. Land tax. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, yeah, this is a really good card. You may search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, reveal them and put them in your hand. If you do shuffle your library. It's almost ridiculous, really. Yeah, if you just have a single copy of land tax at the start of the game, you just bring in enormous amounts of land. And obviously if your opponent has less lands than you, then you are doing better than them, kind of by default. Yeah, I think land tax has to be an S. Really good card. Lich is fun. I remember this card. It's not very practical. I haven't tried to make Lich decks, but it's not something you'd ever run in Shandalar. And in fact, now that I'm thinking about it, how would it work in a dungeon? Because your life total gets carried over. So would you, if you cast Lich, would you then have no life in the next match and then lose? Yeah, it's a very interesting deck, and it's a card, and it can make really interesting decks. I think it has to go in a C though, because I just don't think it's practical. But Lich only run of Shandalar would be fun. Lifeblood. This is a much worse version of Life Tap. White has better ways to gain life. Again, specifically anti-red. If you were going to run anti-red as a deck, you just use conversion, which costs the same, and it's much better. This is a C. bordering on F. The only reason why it's not F is because life gain is actually useful and important. Oh, but it is, I don't know. I would say it's the weakest C. Life Force is really good. That has to go on par with Death Grip, which I put as a A. So yeah, Life Force is lovely. It's, I don't know what it is about this card, but it gives me a really strong emotional feeling of like just kind of hope and protecting life. And whenever I've run a green deck, it feels very satisfying to shut down a black opponent with just over and over again countering all their spells. Yeah, really fun, really good. That and Death Grip are great. Life Tap is definitely an A, really useful. And look at the difference in cost. It costs half as much as Lifeblood. And blue decks have access to Magical Hack, so you can change that to be any land type. I've done that before for sure. Really easy way, especially because the AI doesn't really stop what it's doing. You just harvest that life energy, which is great because in dungeons, for example, where life totals carry over, you need it. You need that kind of thing. And off the top of my head, I don't think blue naturally has a lot of life gaining abilities. So yeah, life tap. Did I say A or S? I'm going to put an S anyway because it's so useful and it's 2 blue. Living Artifact is actually surprisingly good. It's kind of like a slow burn situation where every time you take damage, you're basically you're keeping a pool of life tokens you can cash in. I'm going to check. I think the artist is not sure. I can't read that, but I really like the artwork as well. It's just kind of weird and gross. It's really cheap. I would say A. It's not S because I think green has what's it called? The Fountain of Life. Oh, I've forgotten what the card's called. But there are better there are better ways for green to gain life. I've completely forgotten what that card's called. That will have to come up in a later video. But Living Artifact A. Living Lands is interesting because it's really easy for the opponent to actually accidentally set themselves up for self-destruction, because when everything's a 1/1 creature, anything like Cyclone that deals 1 damage to everything will leave them landless. Occasionally Living Lands can be a surprise and you can be overwhelmed by 1/1s. Potentially really useful with, actually I don't, off the top of my head I can't think of any all green creatures get 1/1 in Shandalar. There's definitely things that do that outside of Shandalar. Maybe it's, yeah, I'd say B. I feel like there's a card I'm forgetting which uses Living Lands really well, but I just can't remember. Lure, this is potentially really useful when you have creatures that have Death Touch, which is not called Death Touch in Shandalar. I think that keyword came along later. I think it's just maybe it might be called Petrify, or basically it's something like Cockatrice or something Basilisk, Thicket Basilisk, something, where you'd basically you'd use enchantments like Web just to cheaply pump up your creature. You'd use this in conjunction with is it Verduran Enchantress or something else, where you are constantly drawing cards when you cast enchantments. I'd say the only reason why it can't be ranked as high as some other cards is you attach it to a creature, the creature could be destroyed, and then you've lost all the enchantments. And it's converted cost to 3, a little bit high, maybe. I would put this in. I put this in B, not because it's a bad card, but just because it takes a bit of setup and the payoff. I've never run a Death Touch deck in Shandalar, normally because of the problem of you're pumping up a couple of creatures which you can lose quickly, and if you pull a hand of enchantments like Lure, you can't really use it to defend yourself without the right kind of creature. There's a potential stalling tactic with it, but yeah, I'll put it in B. But it's not a bad card. Magnetic Mountain is great for certain situations. I feel like red. Again, I think I think I might be forgetting if Boiling Seas is red or blue, ironically, but that's not in Chandler anyway, so I don't think so. I can't remember as well. Wrath of Marit Lage is Marit Lage, Larit Mage. I can't remember, but there's a card that's a converted cost of I think 4 that is better than Magnetic Mountain, but it's not bad. I've not used it, but I feel like it's a solid. Again, it's not as good as Conversion because it's only creatures and it's only creatures that don't have anything else like Vigilance, but then blue doesn't. I'm going to put it in B. I think it's a decent card, but not one I've really ran. Mana Flare is potentially an S. It's very ubiquitous in Shandalar. It's one of these really interesting cards that has a really strong kind of potential backfiring mechanic where you can actually accidentally give your opponent lots of mana, but in specific red decks, like Firewall and Fireball and anything that pumps temporarily, or Shivan Dragon, this is great. I think it's not an S card. Maybe I think it's not an S because of the potential backlash. There are a lot of times where I've tried to run mono red decks, get Mana Flare, play Mana Flare, your opponent kills you with a Fireball that does 30 damage, and you're like, well, crap. So yeah, Mana Flare is it's tough. Maybe it's one of the weaker A's, but I'm going to put it in A. Mana Barbs is really interesting because in the original Shandalar there was a functionality called Mana Burn, where if you tap mana and then you don't use it, you take damage at the end of that phase, which I always hated and thought it was bullshit because it's really easy to accidentally tap a land, or even there are times when you are about to play a card, you double click it, tap a land, and then to tap all the lands and then you change your mind, and obviously you have to have that mana in your pool and then lose it, and I feel like that's enough of a punishment. It kind of feels like in the PC version of this, obviously this is a PC version of this game, it just feels it doesn't quite work in Shandalar. Alternatively, in later versions, like I played, Slightly Magic have released lots of more versions of Shandalar that work on modern OSs. You can turn off Mana Burn, which makes Mana Barbs really interesting, because then certain decks that the opponents use don't work on you anymore, because you can there's another card this is used in conjunction with, which I forgot what it's called, but it'll probably come up soon, where you get punished for not spending mana, and the way this used to work is you used to have that card, I really can't remember what it's called, but some Mana Barbs in conjunction with that card, you're kind of like you're forced to spend mana and take damage, or you don't spend it and take damage. So on opponents, this is a very rambling long story. On opponents, it's useful. I would put it in B just because it's hard to build a deck where this would work for you easily. But it's slightly more useful. No, wait. No, it's slightly. This requires more thought from me, I think. Mana Barbs is not a card that would naturally grant you victory in Shandalar. It's a bit complicated to try and build a deck that works with this. I'm going to put it in B. Love the card art though, beautiful. Moat, creatures without flying can't attack. If you're playing a white deck, you're probably playing flyers. Don't know why you would use it. I mean, there are lots of white cards that don't fly, but why would you bother running white? In my humble opinion, in Shandalar, most of the best white. Yeah, I would put this in C. It just doesn't strike me as a great card. There's a much better multicolored card. I think it's called Teferi's Moat, which is really nice, but that's not in Shandalar anyway. Necropolis of Azar is one of the Shandalar exclusive cards, because it does something random. It's not great because it costs a lot, and it costs a lot. Yeah, it costs a lot to cast, costs a lot to activate. It has a kind of random power at the end of the day. It's limited by count. I mean, for the cost you're paying, I would expect it to be literally just a straight create a random creature with this amount of power and toughness. and pay 5 mana. I wouldn't expect it to be limited by non-black creatures put into graveyards, having a husk counter. There's pretty much nothing in Shandalar that deals with counter manipulation, and even if you did, like, we would just way too much effort. So this is probably a C. Oh, it's not in my... Might be missing from my list. That's a bit shocking. Never mind. Maybe it's not in the list because... Oh, I think maybe it's not in the list because it's a Shandalar only card. It's not good anyway, so let's move on. Orcish Oriflamme is embarrassingly bad when you compare it to Crusade. And Blood Moon, which I believe I put Blood Moon in. Where did I put Blood Moon? Blood Moon's good. Well, Bad Moon was an S. I can't see a Blood Moon. Maybe I'm thinking of a different card. Blood Moon's a B. Bear with me. Bear with me. I don't know if Blood Moon should be a B. Maybe it's more expensive. We'll be right back. Blood Moon. Oh no, I must be thinking of a different card. There's definitely a red card which pumps red creatures. It's not called Blood Moon. It's probably called something else. So ignore me because I'm stupid. Orcish Oriflamme is C because it's really expensive and rubbish. Oubliette is... Let me remind myself how it works. When Oubliette enters the battlefield, exile target creature and or is attached to it. When Oubliette leaves, return the exiled card. A bit like Detention Sphere, but mono black. And about the same cost, I think, as Detention Sphere. I like this card because there's a beautiful castle in the UK called Dunster Castle, which has an Oubliette, which you can visit. National Trust, I think. So yeah, I think it's a really cool card. I think it's useful. I don't think I've ever used it. I can't think of a time I've used it, but I feel like, I mean, ultimately there are better ways of dealing with creatures. I mean, this will be another video, but Swords to Plowshare just outranks almost every alternative in Shandalar. It's kind of like the original path to exile. So for a cost of 3, B, put it B. I like it, but yeah. Paralyze is really useful, and this is why Instill Energy is an S, because Instill Energy lets you get past things like this for free, which is lovely. But yeah, this is... I'm going to say B, I think, or A. It's obviously... So the way Paralyze works, in case you don't remember, is... that you pay 4 to untap it. So potentially the way I kind of counteract an opponent with Paralyze is I pay to untap and then I just don't attack with that creature. So it stays useful, but I'm not having to pay Paralyze over and over again. So there is a way to work around it. And I feel like Terror is just a better card in general. I believe Terror is 1 black. Can't remember. I'll put Paralyze in B. It's good, but yeah. Pestilence is a really fun card. This is like Cyclone a little bit, but has more controllability because it's not... doesn't increment, doesn't have a upkeep cost. But Pestilence is really... Pestilence in conjunction with creatures that have protection from black slaps. It's really useful. Love this card. Definitely A. Almost S. Is it on the same level as Bad Moon and Land Tax? I'm tempted to put it in S. What did I put Cyclone? Cyclone's an A. I do think Pestilence is better than Cyclone. And I think if you combine this with, for example, I played a really good white-black deck. Just have White Knights and Pestilence, and that way your White Knight can't die from Pestilence, and that means you won't lose Pestilence. Yeah, I think Pestilence deserves an S. I know it's cost of 4, but in this house we like Pestilence. This is what I was thinking of. Phantasmal Terrain. It's ever so slightly worse than Evil Presence, but it's just as useful. I probably would put this in S as well. It costs the same as Psychic Venom, which is going to come up soon. Does it? Well, sort of. Which is another really good card, and I think Phantasmal Terrain has to be an S because that has to be an A, if that makes any sense. But I like Phantasmal Terrain for all the reasons I described for Evil Presence. Power Leak. At the beginning of the upkeep of Enchanted Enchantment's controller, that player may pay any amount of mana. Power Leak deals 2 damage to that player. Prevent X of that damage, where X is the amount of mana that the player paid this way. It just seems specific. I feel like I don't think I've ever run Power Leak. Yeah, I can see Power Struggle's not on my list either. Never mind. I will have to add them at the end or something. So yeah, I mean, I've already got bored of talking about Power Leak before I've talked about it. I've never used it. I'm sure it could be useful, but I think if you're dealing tick damage or damage over time, there are just simpler ways of doing this that the enemy can't circumnavigate. Because, for example, this card basically becomes useless near the end of a match because the cost of 2 is, pittance when you've got 10 or 12 lands out. And at the beginning of a match, you're willing to take 2 damage to preserve your land. I think I'd put this in B. No, B or C. I've never really used it. Is it better than Haunting Wind? Yes, it is better than Haunting Wind, so it's a B. So yeah, the Power Surge is the card I was thinking of a minute ago. Power Struggle is a really, really annoying card that I'm kind of glad it's actually not on the list because it almost doesn't deserve to be in this game. It just is a nightmare. In case you've not seen it before, if you've maybe not played Shandalar much, but this card is a default in some blue dungeons, and the way that it works is at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player exchanges control of a random target artifact, creature, or land he or she controls for control of random target artifact permanent of the same type a random opponent controls. So you're literally every turn just doing that. And it also plays a really obnoxious sound effect, which I strongly dislike, and I think I've even muted my whole computer when doing this dungeon or something like that, just because it's so annoying. For example, within a few turns, you're basically controlling all of your opponent's lands, and they have all of your lands. Neither of you can play your cards properly. It's totally random because it's just a random Shandalar card. The only way that I have been able to kind of game it is if, for example, if you have a creature and your opponent doesn't have a creature, you can't swap creatures. There's nothing to swap to. So certain decks, again, pulling out stuff like Lightning Bolt or Sword to Plowshare, if you can just stop your opponent from having a certain type of card, you'll never swap them. But again, you'd have to prevent that every single turn, including every single one of your opponent's turns and your turns. I would put this in F because I just hate it and don't see the point of it, and I think it's just a card made for a kind of almost like a meme card. I don't know if that's really a thing in Shandalar, but it's just really obnoxious card. But it's not on my little list, so we can move past. Power Surge. This card becomes almost unfairly broken in the current implement. If you play Shandalar in a version with no mana burn, this card just becomes hilariously strong because you can just play 4 of them, and you can always tap your lands and do nothing with no cost. Your opponent won't have that luxury. So this is, I would say it's an A. And to be fair, in the right deck, when you have something like a Firewall, it's really useful because it in matches that involves stalling, so that happens quite a lot. You have matches where you and your opponent are you have your kind of like you both have your armies of creatures and you're just kind of stuck, can't attack each other. This is a nice way of getting around that. A little bit situational, but I do like it. And it's got cool artwork, so that's an A. Power Leech, I genuinely don't remember this card. Whenever an artifact an opponent controls becomes tapped, or an opponent activates an artifact's ability without tapping its activation cost, you gain 1 life. It seems alright. Really don't remember this card. Really don't remember it at all. I don't remember any enemy decks that have it. Comment down below if you do, but I don't. B. Psychic Venom is fabulous for a number of reasons, but it's used by, I believe, it might be the Thought Invoker, possibly, because they play Psychic Venom. Unfortunately, the AI doesn't play it very well. Humans are better at picking more important lands. And also what the AI tends to do is they tend to stack multiple Psychic Venoms on one land, and you can just right-click it and say, don't auto-tap this card, and then it won't bother you. Except for decks where they force you to tap lands. I like Psychic Venom. I'd put it in an A. It's cheaper than Erosion. It's a little bit better than Erosion. Combined with... I can't remember what the cards are called, but there are certain cards... might be called Power Tap or Drain or something, which forces enemy land tapping. You can just... And that repeats over and over again. I think the AI will only avoid tapping a land with this if it would literally kill them. So I think it's an easy way to deal loads of damage throughout a match. And also it's only 2. Cost of 2, so maybe it's not quite an S, but definitely a strong A. Oh god, Raging River. I've never used this card, probably because it has a million lines. Whenever one or more creatures you control attack, each defending player divides all creatures without flying he or she controls into a left pile and a right pile. Then for each attacking creature you control, choose left or right. That creature can't be blocked this combat except by creatures with flying and creatures in a pile with a choice. I don't even want to read this. Like, it's just annoying to read it. I don't think this card... I've never seen this card being used, never used it. I'm trying to even... I need a minute to even think about how to use it. Pile and right pile. It's basically like saying... forcing the opponent to split their creatures they have on the field in 2, and then you get to pick the least worst one, and because you get the choice, that creature can't be blocked this combat except by creatures with flying and creatures... I don't even know. Maybe I'm just dumb, but I can't think of why this card would be very useful. Please correct me in the comments below. Please tell me why I'm wrong. Nice artwork, but just can't even see why that's useful. Red Ward, like all the other wards, is B. Wards are always useful, but not as good as Circle of Protection. Regeneration is potentially an S. I love Regeneration. Obviously this can't be regenerated. I'm thinking of fighting a witch, for example, with what's that? There's an artifact which destroys something. I forgot what it's called, but there's an artifact which destroys lots of I think it's like creatures, artifacts, and enchantments can't be regenerated. So there are certain cards that do that, but by and large, regeneration is so useful in any green tech, and the artwork's great. We love to see it. It's just beautiful. Yeah, big fan of regeneration. I would put that in S personally, as somebody who likes playing green decks but doesn't like enchanting a creature with loads of great things and then it dying is obnoxious. So yeah, regeneration. Relic Bind. Enchant artifact and opponent controls. Whenever enchanted artifact becomes tapped, choose one. A Relic Bind does 1 damage to that player or target player. Etherflux is a vastly superior way of dealing with artifacts. I would put this in C. I mean, I know it's nice to have blue life gain. I've never used it, not really seen it be used. It's okay. Maybe I'm being too harsh. No, I'm not. It costs 3. See. Seeker. Enchanted creature can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and/or white creatures. It's like Fear, but twice as expensive. Have a look. God, yes. Rubbish. Yeah. For that much mana, you would just cast. Completely forgotten what it's called. What was that card called? The one that gave +3/+3. I've completely forgotten what it's called. My brain is dying. Bear with me while I find it. Something brilliance. Divine Transformation. No, I'm going to do. Yeah, that's a card I should know the name of. I'll put Seeker in C. Maybe F. Yeah, F. It's so expensive for what it is. Never used it. Anyway. Smoke. Players can't untap more than one creature during their untap steps. This is really useful in the right situation. Goes really well with stuff like Kismet and Meekstone, all of these cards that punish untapping. I would use this easily in a red-white deck. I would have a whole fleet of Vigilance. I guess it works well with Eternal Warrior as well. It's a little bit antithetical to red in general, because red is very much like creature power based, and it's a little bit unusual maybe to have a card which you might off the top of your head think, oh, this goes against what the standard red is. So I would use it in a red white, and it would be lovely. So I'm going to put Smoke in A. Spirit Link is my favourite enchantment probably in this game. It's incredible, it's so useful. Because of the way it works, it's not lifelink. So lifelink is a keyword which came up later, I believe, in Magic the Gathering, but this is not lifelink. This is literally whenever enchanted creature deals damage, you gain that much life. So you can use it both on your own creatures and your opposing creatures. It's great in Shandalar because the AI doesn't really understand Spirit Link, so they will keep attacking you. And the way it works essentially is it will deal X amount of damage and then you gain it back as life straight away. I can't, innumerable other times where I've used Spirit Link, incredibly cheap as well. So use it right at the start. Let's say picture this: all the dungeons where opponents start with a creature, which is normally puts you in a huge disadvantage if they start off with a, I can't even off the top of my head remember, but 2/2 or maybe a 1/2 or something creature right at the start, and they can just start attacking you immediately. This Spirit Link just shuts it down straight away, and the AI doesn't really deal with it super well. You can also kind of, a little bit of a hack, if you cast Spirit Link twice on an opposing creature and let it attack you, you'll actually have a net gain of life, because you take X damage and gain X times 2 life back. Then you can let that happen over and over again, because obviously in Magic you can choose for creatures to attack you, just don't block it. Spirit Link is a strong S. Love that card. Spirit Shackle's fun. Whenever enchanted creature becomes tapped, put a -0/-2 counter on it. I'm a big fan of minus counters because they override. I mean, I don't think anything in this game is indestructible, but in general I do like. This is a little bit like Black Sun's Zenith for the same reason. It's just nice because when a creature has 0 toughness, it's not allowed to exist anymore, basically, and so it has to be destroyed or removed. So yeah, I'd put this in A. A? Is it as good as... Yeah, I think it's good because I believe the AI doesn't know how to deal with it, so I think they will attack and kill them and destroy their own creatures. And it's quite cheap. Again, I think Terror is better, so that's why it's... See, now I'm comparing enchantments to non-enchantments and deciding if they're ranking. Maybe I should be just thinking... No, I think the tier list's motivation should be like, is the card by itself. useful in a deck, and you're going to be using it with other types of cards. I would say it's a really strong A, bordering on S, but not quite S. Stasis is really fun. There's a card which I've forgotten the name of, but it's not in Shandalar anyway, but there's a card which allows players to skip their upkeeps, which means that you can permanently play Stasis and just Aeon Ether Hub or something. It's very fun. I do like Stasis. I've always loved the artwork for it. It's just so interesting. While I'm here, my Bible. I believe there's a page somewhere with Stasis on it, but I can't remember. But yeah, love this book. I would put Stasis. Is it actually a useful, good card though? That is the problem. I think it can be really useful. I put it in A. I've actually missed a card out. Oh my goodness. And I've missed out on one of my favourite cards, Spiritual Sanctuary. Love this card. I know it's expensive. Potentially your opponent can gain life as well, but I would play this in a white-blue deck with Magic Hack. This is turning into a long video. I really like this card. It's really nice in Shandalar because you can just keep it waiting, and it's compare it to Farmstead where you have to pay a huge amount of mana to gain life every turn. This is just passive upkeep. I would put that in A. Only reason why it's not S is because it's also benefiting your opponent, which is potentially not ideal. Let's have a look how we're doing. We are doing really well. Steel Artifact, Enchant Artifact, you control Enchanted Artifact. It's alright, it's a bit expensive. I think Copy Artifact is better, and I put Copy Artifact as... let's have a look. Where did I put Copy? It's really hard to see. There's tiny, tiny text. I put Copy Artifact as an A. Let me check what the cost of Copy Artifact is. Yeah, I think Copy Artifact might be just better because it's half the cost, and if it's a creature, having a copy of that creature more or less makes their creature redundant, and it's a deadlock, which is fine because blue has plenty of ways of dealing damage outside of combat. So if anything, that deadlock's useful. If you're stealing an artifact to use it, copying it just means you have it and you can use it. So I would say Steel Artifact has to be better. So I'm going to put it in A. No, sorry, beg your pardon. I'm going to put Copy in B. Oh, I'm being an idiot. Copy is A, Steel is B. Because Copy is better than Steel. Too many cards. Sunken City is appalling when you compare it to Crusade, but obviously blue doesn't have a huge amount of kind of like field-wide boosting. Would I play Sunken City? No. I would just use Unstable Mutation, which is coming up soon. Well, maybe I wouldn't, because it has a big downside. I don't think Sunken City is very good. I think it would have to be a C. There's, I believe, there's a Merfolk. That's a hard word to say. There's a Merman card which gives +1s. It might only be to other Merfolk. Trying to think if there's any other Shandalar blue. No, it doesn't. Yeah, because Unstable Mutation is basically the blue version of Holy Strength, Unholy Strength. Yeah, I think I'd put it in C. It's not useless. I'm very confident that somebody could make a great blue deck with Sunken City. And obviously, yeah, it's also your opponent's creatures as well. Yeah. Sylvan Library is considered one of the best scrying. Again, scry is not a keyword in Shandalar, but it's basically look at the top card and make a decision. So at the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand drawn this turn. For each of these cards, pay 4 life or put the card on top of your library. So it's basically scrying passively all the time, and if you want to pay a heavy cost, you can then take it out and use it, which is I think is fine because green has lots of life gaining abilities. I personally wouldn't play Sylvan Library just because I avoid life costing effects, and I mean we're talking about a game where Ancestral Recall is allowed, but even then you get Howling Mine, which if you need to have a card drawing system. See, it's controversial because I probably wouldn't rank Sylvan Library as an S. I would, let's put it in A. I think it is a good card, which has a lot of uses, but just not one I'd naturally gravitate to because of that cost. Maybe I need to think about that one some more. I'm not sure. The Brute is an A, would almost be an S, could almost be an S, specifically because I don't think there is a red creature which has regeneration, something troll, or is it sedge something? I don't remember the names of the ugly looking scary red creatures really, but the Brute, apart from those, the Brute is a really useful way of giving a creature regeneration abilities, even though it's a bit expensive. I would definitely rate the Brute above Giant Strength, just because you'll hit a point in the game where you can afford to pay 3 red, and yeah, I just think regeneration is really useful for a red deck. But I'm willing to be proven wrong. I'm willing to be challenged on that because I'm not 100% confident in that assessment compared to other cards. Titania's Song is interesting. Each non-creature artifact loses all abilities and becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost of Titania's Song leaves the battlefield. This effect continues until end of turn. This is a very handy way of instantly destroying a card like Ornithopter because it has a casting cost of 0, and then it becomes a artifact creature with a toughness of 0, so it gets destroyed. I'm trying to think, is there a better green? I'm sure there are better green cards that deal with artifacts that your opponent controls. I do like Titania's Song. I'm willing to put it in. I'm going to put it in B, say it's a strong B. Yeah. Unholy Strength has to be on the same level as Holy Strength, which it was A or S. Yeah, A. Great card, pretty much essential. Almost no reason for a black deck not to use it. Just box standard, important card with great artwork. A bit like my tattoo at the back. Unstable Mutation is a really interesting card, used a lot by opponents, and it can, this is what's really interesting is that it's normally a red strategy to go for a quick win by just destroying with life, with damage in combat. But Unstable Mutation is a way for blue, is a higher risk way of a higher risk winning strategy for blue decks. And there have been quite a few times where I'm fighting somebody that just throws out 2 or 3 Unstable Mutations in a row, and then you're suddenly fighting a creature with a toughness of 12, which in Shandalar you start with 10 life points, so it's brutal and sudden. The AI doesn't really use it super well because they tend to cast it and then leave their creature. For example, if they don't consider it, like a human player would take the risk of attacking because they understand that Unstable Mutation is going to make that creature worthless quickly. Did I read it out? Enchanted creature gets +3/+3 at the beginning of the upkeep of the enchanted creature's controller. Put a -1/-1 counter on that creature. So obviously, over time, if you don't use it, that creature will eventually be destroyed by its own negative counters. I think this is S-worthy, though, because it's so cheap and you can just throw it out right at the start It's also useful in conjunction with stuff like Flying Man, and there's a 1/1 bird with, oh yes, what was that? I can't remember what it's called now, but there's a 1/1 bird with vigilance. Zephyr Falcon, maybe. You can literally start, well, maybe on the second turn you would have a flying 4/4 with vigilance, which is kind of crazy. Really useful. So S, I think that's to be an S. Venom, basically death touch. Whenever enchanted creature blocks or becomes blocked by a non-wall creature, destroy the other creature at the end of combat. The fact it's non-wall is a little bit disappointing, because if you're playing a green deck, you're probably potentially not using a lot of flying creatures, so you'd have to have a way of dealing with walls. I feel like I wouldn't run Venom. I would just run Cockatrice, and again, I've forgotten what it's called, Basilisk something, rather than cast Venom. But it's not useless. I'd say B. I'll put it in B. Wanderlust is used by there's a centaur shaman that uses Wanderlust and Warp Artifact, and they're both very vicious and annoying cards, because the AI does understand Wanderlust, and they will from what I remember, they will make an effort to not destroy creatures with Wanderlust. So I've had times where I've had a creature cursed with Wanderlust, I'm dying, I try and attack with the creature to get rid of it, and they let the attack go through, or they make sure it attacks something which can't destroy it. I'm pretty sure that's how it's implemented. Yeah, great for damage over time. I would put that as an A. And Warp Artifact is basically the black version. So I would put that very similar, but just for artifacts instead. I think Warp Artifact is one of the nicest damage over times and anti-artifact, because even potentially slightly better than Wanderlust. Not enough to change it to a higher rank, but I'd say Warp Artifact is slightly better, because creatures are more likely to be destroyed in a game, and it's easier for a player to destroy their own creatures than it is to destroy. There's no natural way of, there's not as easy a way of destroying your own artifacts. Obviously, caveats are there, but yeah, I'd put that in A as well. Weakness is it's useful. It's not, because it's only -1 toughness, it doesn't quite have the appeal of Immolation, which I believe I put as an S because it's so good. It's worse than other single mana cards that deal with creatures. It's not Swords to Plowshares, it's not Spirit Link. I really should look up the cost of Terror. I don't remember what it is. I'd say this is A though. I'd say weakness is good, but it's a nice way of reducing their attack. But just that -1 toughness just doesn't fit the, and also it doesn't have the utility of Immolation, because the weakness is never a bonus. Weakness is just always making a creature weaker, so you wouldn't be able to use it on yourself with any benefit, unlike Immolation. So yeah, I'd say A, but weak A. I think we're almost done. Web is really, really useful. I would say it's potentially S for green decks, just because it gives reach, and there aren't a lot of creatures with reach. I think it's Giant Spider might be one of the only Shandalar cards with reach. I also don't remember if reach was a keyword in Shandalar. I'll have to look that up. It might have been originally blocked creatures with flying. Yeah, it's very useful. It's is it on par with Aspect of Wolf? I think it's not as good as Aspect of Wolf, but I still think it deserves a strong tier. I guess it's not S. I'm looking at this and I'm cautious of the fact that I put a lot of cards in S. So I'm going to put web in A. White ward B with all the other wards. All the wards are good. I'm not hating on wards. They are very nice, but they are situational, and they don't have as much of a use long term in a duel as the circular protections. Like circular protection's a lifesaver in a match where you've decked out, or you're not decked out, but you've not mulliganed. When you basically have a hand that is bricking, and you're being attacked by many creatures. So circular protection is really outclasses wards. I don't think I would run wards that much. I'm thinking about it. Maybe I've been a bit too harsh, but I mean, as I reach the last card in this list, none of these cards are like, well, okay, there are. I say the F tier cards are basically bad, but everything above F is. This is the beauty of the game, obviously, is that they do have uses, and you can make a deck that works with almost all of these cards. Anyway, Wild Growth. Tempted to put it in S because it's so useful. You know, you have a green deck with Wild Growth, Birds of Paradise. I believe Worldly Tutors and Shandalar. I'll have to check. Basically, the purpose of this is more mana. So whenever Enchanted Land is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 green mana to his or her mana pool, in addition to the mana the land produces. So super useful. Right at the start of the game, you just lay down Wild Growth. Really useful as well if you're playing a multicolored deck. For example, you can cast Wild Growth on a plains. This card had a drawback in the original game because of mana burn, because you would be obliged to add that to your deck, to your mana pool. Pardon me, but it wouldn't be a problem in later releases of Shandalar. I mean, I like Wild Growth. I'm going to put an S. It's pretty. Look at that lovely artwork. Is it Paul again? Clearly, I've got a bias for Paul as an artist because I've liked a lot of Paul's stuff. S, cool. So I'm going to go away and get the missing Shandalar unique enchantments and put them in this tier list because they are not there and I didn't notice, and I want them to be there. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I went away and I added Power Struggle and Necropolis of Azar. So Power Struggle is obviously F because I hate it, and Necropolis of Azar is it is C. It's not terrible, but it's just too expensive. But yeah, so those are the two, and I remembered the word for the set. It's Astral cards, which is probably why I forgot them on my list. But that means there are 116 enchantments overall in the game. But yeah, I really suddenly was inspired to make this video because I love this game, and I just felt like it. So I might do more. I'll probably just do more types, maybe rank some creature decks and stuff. I haven't done a playthrough in a while, so maybe I need to do that as well. But anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think, and see you next time.